Welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Talking Around the Library Tree podcast. I am here with a couple of people who are just about to introduce themselves. My name's Ciara. I'm the Faculty Librarian for Arts and Social Sciences.
Hi, I'm Ines. I'm very happy to be here. I am a writer and also an illustrator, and I draw comics. And I'm also a lecturer in creative writing here at Lancaster University. And I'm going to be starting to teach my own graphic novel module. And I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to hearing about it.
And I'm Gem, and I'm Faculty Librarian for Health and Medicine.
And Gem is also very much involved in the Comic Arts Festival in the Lakes. We're going to talk about that in a little while, but we're all really interested in graphic novels, the kind of power of them, and we're going to have a little discussion about how they work, why we like them, maybe make some recommendations to people as well. So maybe if we start with, for people that have maybe not come across the term graphic novel, there's a lot of different ways of talking about these. There's kind of different things within that umbrella term. Could you sort of explain what a graphic novel is, please?
Go on, Ines, you're the creator.
I suppose a graphic novel is the glorified term to define a comic, or what people would have known before as comics. Although I feel like when you talk about graphic novels, you are talking normally about one author, perhaps, who illustrates, who writes, and is creating this whole book, I suppose, and this whole idea. Although sometimes you would find like writers and illustrators collaborating together. But there is always, I suppose, an ambition towards literary merit, I guess, and originality. Mm-hmm. But you would have, it's a form, I suppose, so you would have all sorts of different genres, all sorts of different audiences.
Yeah, so it's a kind of mode of storytelling, essentially.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And because, I mean, I used to, both Gem and I used to work in school libraries, and I think when we saw a whole different crowd of people coming for the sort of the graphic novel section that we had, it was a way of kind of bringing a new audience into the library. And I think that's the first time that I really noticed what kind of an impact they can have. And it started all sorts of interesting conversations with the boys in school. And they knew so much and taught me so much about it. And I found it incredibly interesting. I mean, I've always been a reader, but I didn't really come to graphic novels, comics, manga, until quite a lot later in my life. And I was just telling these guys about reading them with my son, who's coming up on 7 now, and how there's been a huge kind of explosion in children's literature for kind of comics and things like that. So it's a really nice way to kind of build on reading skills at that age, I think. But I mean, can you talk a little bit about maybe the sort of power and impact that graphic novels can have?
Okay, everyone's looking at me.
Come on, Jen.
I suppose just to elaborate on what Ciara was saying about the skills side of things. I mean, graphic novels meant a lot to me when I was a teenager. And I took that into school librarianship because I sort of knew how much they did appeal to teenagers and how sometimes they're kind of forgotten about.
Yeah.
And so you build your graphic novel collection in your school library, and my school library it quickly became the most borrowed medium, like by far. So I think that says it all, really, just how powerful it can be.
And lovely conversations kind of started. We set up a group for those who wanted to draw their own, and who wanted to read the Excelsior list each year, and it was really well attended, and got lots of new people into the library, which was great.
And it is really interesting as well how the perception of graphic novels has been changing as well, because I certainly remember, like you were saying, Gem, growing up, as a child, especially as a teenager, I would say, like you were saying, graphic novels became so important to me. And I read a lot of manga, for example, and I read all sorts of manga, from like things like Naruto and Death Note, which are more action-packed, horror stuff, to other authors like Osamu Tezuka as well, all sorts of things. But I always remember, I was growing up in Spain, so it may be different in England, but I remember this kind of like people just saying, it's just real comics, like people looking down on them, really.
Yeah.
And
There's
even,
a lot of there is that kind of dismissive attitude, I think, with some people in school as well couldn't see why we would be pointing people to read those.
And even with my mother, she's a literature teacher in what would be like sixth form in here. And she was, your little comics. But I remember a couple of years ago, she was coming to visit me. And now I have this massive like graphic novel collection in my house. And I just gave her a graphic novel to read. And she just read, I think it was How to Survive the North by Luke Healy, who is an Irish cartoonist and graphic novel artist. And she was shocked. She was like, this is so good. How to Survive the North is like an amazing story. It has like different timelines. It covers the real story of Ada Blackjack, who was like an amazing woman and an Inuit woman who survived, stranded on an island for like, I think it was almost, was it a few years? She was there with a crew of explorers. None of the men who were professional explorers survived. She was only hired as a cook. She survived for like, I think it was 3 years with her cat. Wow. The cat survived too. And this is like, and it tells that story, but also has another contemporary timeline, and it's so complex, so interesting. And she was like, graphic novels are these? And I was like, yes, ma'am. They can also, it can be Naruto, and it can also be this. And I love them both, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Both approaches.
There can be any genre whatsoever. It doesn't have to be, people think it's comedy or, just things that are, maybe silly, or, which obviously there are lots of silly comics too, and they're great. But they can be about anything, can't they?
Yeah. And as an author myself, as someone very interested in storytelling, I just find this form so fascinating and so powerful because it just allows for a lot of control from the point of view of the author, you know what I mean? Like, I can literally just be drawing and writing, creating my own story. It could be set anywhere. This is not a film, so I don't have to be worried about what props I include or if I need to go to whatever locations. And then also the beauty of graphic novels and a lot of zine culture comes from this. You can literally print them black and white so cheaply in a way and distribute them. And that's just so much fun when you are an author. And I think that's why so many marginalized groups like queer folk or folk from all sorts of diverse backgrounds have found in graphic novels a really powerful tool to talk about their experiences in their own terms.
Absolutely. And they're so cheap to produce if that's what you want to do. Like you said, you've got complete creative control.
Yeah.
And really all you need is a piece of A4 paper, make a zine, and then hopefully photocopy it or in some way, and then then you've got a comic. Yeah.
And I mean, I just find that pretty incredible, and that was something I really wanted to explore in my graphic novel module, because they've been graphic novels throughout the years, like Persepolis, which obviously incredible, amazing, I love it. Mouse, or anything by Alison Bechdel, like Fan Home, Are You My Mother? These are now like the classics. I think these were the kind of works that mainstream audiences were like, okay, yes, graphic novels.
Seriously
this
now,
has to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
But because all of those are already studied in actually other English literature courses in my department, which already says a lot about the value of this work. For my own module, I really wanted to explore more this kind of like queer perspective, I suppose, on graphic novels, or the perspective of more marginalized groups to talk about their own experiences. And that was something, I wanted to implement in my graphic novel course. And also to make it very clear to the students, it's obviously a graphic novel course in creative writing. So we are writing graphic novels, not necessarily illustrating them. So we are focusing on the script. But also, I wanted just to say to everyone, you don't need to know how to quote unquote draw.
Absolutely.
To create a graphic novel, because there is so much space there to add a visual component. I mean, some authors work even with photos, don't they? Or with collage.
Yeah. Someone like Dave McKean is just mixed media the whole time. And you think about I'm thinking about the Scott McCloud. What's the main text that I can't remember what it's called now. It's just called like How to Create Comics or something.
Understanding comics.
That's it, thank you. And there's even a bit in that, isn't there, about keeping faces very simple, because then you can kind of put yourself into it, and so that can actually be a tool in itself to kind of keep a comic quite simplistic, rather than kind of overdoing it on the detail, because that in itself is a tool to convey something that you might want to be going towards.
Because that was something that I was just thinking about when you were talking, was this, when you read a kind of a novel rather than a graphic novel, you sort of can imagine however
true.
the scene looks or the characters look. So I wonder if there's
Some
something
people can't though.
interesting. Okay, so it does. I mean, I loved as a child books that had illustrations alongside text, and it's not done really in a lot of novels for adults that you would get any form of illustration in a traditional novel, I guess. So it really does appeal as a form, I think, to kind of just reveal that to people.
And the style of illustration, the approach, the colors used can communicate so much as well about the story. Like one of my recent favorite graphic novels I've read is this work by this German artist called Nino Bullin, I think is the name. And they've written this graphic novel titled Firebugs. Firebugs.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
It's wonderful. So the illustration style is very simple. It's just ink, black ink. The drawings are really... It looks like they have been made really fast, but they're really powerful and really distinctive. And it's only black and white, but now and again the artist uses red as well. And it's just, I mean, it's a whole vibe already for the story, you know what I mean, that they are telling. That was really fascinating.
I think that's sometimes what people don't always understand, though, is that every decision that's made on that page is for a reason. So in the same way you have any kind of literary tools or tricks within prose literature, all of that is translated as well into a visual language, isn't it? And that's, I think sometimes people don't get that, and the amount of actual effort and time.
Oh my god!
Until you open up like your mum did, and like kind of actually read it and experience it and go, oh, actually there is something to this, you know. So don't knock it till you try it, basically. And I mean, for anyone who hasn't read a comic before, is there anything that you would kind of signpost people to, or to introduce them to it? Any favourites that you would highlight for people?
Okay, so the one that was always the big smash hit in my school, and I completely understand why, is A Smile by Raynard Helgemeyer. And it's an autobiographical account of when she was about 12. She knocked her 2 front teeth out on a pavement. I know she was coming back from like scouts or guides or whatever they have in the States, and she fell out of the car and hit her face on the pavement. And it's all about her journey, like kind of trying to negotiate all of having kind of dental work done and having to go to school with it, and kind of how that she then encountered, bullying and difficult relationships and that kind of thing. And it's so perfectly told. It's just gorgeously done, and it's so simplistic, but you kind of, there's so much in it. So it's meant for kind of like middle grade kind of kids, but I would recommend it to everybody. And then the other one that's been on my mind recently is called Criminal, and it's by Sean Phillips and Ed Brubaker, who again are just absolutely sort of textbook fantastic comics creators, and they've been creating for years now, and Amazon have just picked up Criminal as a TV series. So that's one to watch as well, I think. But that one's definitely for adults.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the form, isn't it? Like, you can have all sorts of audiences, like children, teenagers, adults. I'm personally, one of the graphic novels that I love the most is by this author, Tilly Walden.
Yeah.
She's great. She's been in the Lakes International Comic Arts Festival. Yeah. I discovered this after I knew of the festival, and I was like, no, I missed it.
So Luke Healy and Alison Bechtel. So sorry.
Yeah, I mean, incredible. We'll talk about that in a moment. So I love everything she produces. She's a very interesting artist. She's done all sorts of different genres. But one of the most favorite things that she's done that I love is quite a huge graphic novel titled In a Sunbeam. Which is science fiction by someone who didn't like science fiction all that much, apparently, according to her. And it's this dreamy science fiction world. It's all set in space, and there are only women in this world. There are no male characters. There are non-binary characters, but no male characters. This is never discussed why. But it's a strange, dream-like world. And it's a very interesting story. And she loves drawing these massive, architecture styles, spaces. I just love her work. It's beautiful and dark. And it's very interesting because she started she was already kind of like a recognized author when she started this work, and she did this only for fun, and she put it out first as a webcomic. And even after she published it, it's still a webcomic.
I love that. Yeah.
And that's something she negotiated with her publishers, that she always wanted to have the webcomic.
Yeah.
So on a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden, you can go to your nearest library and try to grab a copy. If not, it's a webcomic as well.
Many ways to access it.
Yeah, so that's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
And we're hopefully going to be getting more titles into the library through what you're teaching as well. So that's something to watch out for. I'm sure they're going to be popular. And yeah, we just mentioned the Lakes Comic Arts Festival. So do you want to just tell people a little bit about that if they've not heard about it? Because it's a local thing for people to be able to go along.
Absolutely. So it happens in Bowness. I think it's second week of September it's moved to now. And when we say international, it's truly international. I mean, there are like hundreds of countries represented. We have people from all over the world. It's definitely a festival rather than a convention. So it takes over the whole town. It's in lots of different little venues, and there are loads of little kind of cultural events that go along with it. So this year Luke Healy was doing stand-up comedy.
Of course.
And various other things going on. There's like a children's area, and yeah, it's just absolutely packed. They also do things throughout the year. So they've been running manga workshops for young people in Kendall Library with some amazing manga artists. Chiko Sawada, who's been working with, crumbs, I can't remember the author's name now. But anyway, so she's been working alongside local young people. What else have they got going on? All kinds of things, really. They try and have links with other festivals all over the world, so you're bound to see artists from like Canada, India, Australia, Congo, like literally every continent is represented.
It's amazing that we've got that on our doorstep.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, so people need to know. Okay, great. And I know, Ines, you're doing some work in the Lancaster Library as well, aren't you? Both at the university and in the town.
Yes. So in Lancaster Central Library, right in the center of town, I'm gonna start this writing group/workshop happening on Wednesdays from 5 to 6:30. And this is just a writing group for writers such as myself to just come and actually write, which
do the work,
which it's kind of sometimes it's really hard to find the time to just focus. And I just feel like I focus way better when I'm in a room with other writers, so I cannot indulge on watching like YouTube videos of cats, of cute cats.
You've got accountability, no procrastination.
So I really wanted to I love libraries so much, and I just really wanted to reach out to the community of artists and writers around me, and just work all together, and then after that you just chat about the writing and the process. So no feedback involved, so you don't have to do any work outside of the space, I suppose. You just come there, do some writing, and then chat.
It sounds brilliant. And something that you've been planning as well, to kind of coincide with your upcoming new module as well, is the zine workshop, which we're hoping to do here in the library. So maybe worth kind of giving a shout out for that.
Yes, so that's very, very exciting. That's going to happen at the end of January. And it will be like a short zine workshop in which I will try to convince everyone that you can create a one-page comic, even if you don't know how to draw. It's fine. I'll tell you tricks. I'll give you tools.
I think
and you'll do it.
Be there,
and you'll see how fun it is to just like do something with your hands and
to actually you can get very lost in it. I think it's quite you find a flow, and I think that's really important nowadays, because you walk around and you see everybody kind of looking at screens, and I think actually just having a pen in your hand and it's quite
your hands dirty with like colors
with ink. No, that's going to be brilliant. Okay, so anything else that we've not covered that we might want to throw in there before?
What's on our list?
I think we've kind of done a really quick whistle-stop tour of the kind of the whole idea, really. So we hope you've enjoyed it, and go along to Ines's
yes, please.
zines workshop, and pop into the Lancaster Central Library on Wednesdays, is it?
Yes.
Wednesdays from the new year, is it? Yeah. Okay. So brilliant. Hopefully, people will come and check out all of those things. Thank you. Thank you very much for the time. We've loved it. having you. Okay.